And the best piece of advice I can give you as a student is actually the same piece of advice my teacher Wade gave me. This one thing really helped me understand Chinese medicine. And the students who don't do this one thing, they really struggle. This is a video for people who are interested in studying Chinese medicine and you've started the journey of studying, or you're thinking, can I study Chinese medicine? Is this something I'm going to be able to do? Hey everyone, Marie Hopkinson here from the Chinese Medicine Podcast. Maybe I should put some lipstick on. That's probably a good idea. If the barn door needs painting, paint it. That's what my mum says. Anyway, that's better. I've got a quick minute between my patients, and I got this message from someone who's been watching the channel. Now, I'm not going to put their name there, but I'll copy bits of their message or their message there so we can kind of all learn from this response, because it is something that I am pretty passionate about, and I've got a few things I can say about this. So this is a video for people who are interested in studying Chinese medicine and you've started the journey of studying, or you're thinking, can I study Chinese medicine? Is this something I'm going to be able to do? It seems really hard, and there's some things that are really difficult concepts, or how am I going to be able to learn this, especially as an adult learner? So I'm going to read this question because I think it's going to resonate with a lot of people. So this person says, "Hi Marie, I've recently been following you on YouTube and I've been accepted into a Bachelor of Health Science in Acupuncture." Congratulations, that's awesome that you've made that step and you've gotten into the course. I'm a 43-year-old mum and I have ADHD. I'm concerned that I may not get my head around the Chinese terminology. Would you happen to have any tips or advice you could share? Thanks for your time. Okay, so I'm answering this as a video because it's actually quicker than me writing out a response to one person. And also lots of people can probably benefit from this, and it helps me grow the channel. So if you're interested in this kind of stuff and this is helping you, click the subscribe and the notification bell and help us get to 100,000 subs. I'd love to do that. And I am thinking about making a separate channel for practitioners and like, you know, people that are near on graduating, or TCM students, something like that. So if that's something that you want me to do, please let me know and I'll think about that. So there are some things that helped me as a person learning it. Now, I'm not in the same boat as you by any means. When I studied Chinese medicine, I was 17 years old, just out of high school. I didn't know what Chinese medicine was. It was very strange, and sort of mysterious and interesting, all those things at the same time. But I also have had more than that probably, years of teaching Chinese medicine, and I've seen lots of mature students come and go, and I've seen young students come and go, and I've seen the reasons why people go, and there's legitimate reasons why people do leave the profession or they don't continue on in the course. Now, one of those things can be this thing you mentioned about the Chinese terminology and getting your head around it. And the best piece of advice I can give you as a student is actually the same piece of advice my teacher Wade gave me and all of us in our first year of Chinese medicine school. And I'm so glad that he did say this, because this one thing really helped me understand Chinese medicine. And the students who don't do this one thing, they really struggle. And I've even seen my own students who can't grasp this, or they weren't told this, you know, first off, and, you know, I might meet them along their journey and they're 3 years into it and they still don't sort of understand this. The one thing, and it's not like, you know, click on this button here and find this one weird trick and it's really nothing useful, it's just a clickbait, is actually you've got to keep your Chinese medicine hat separate from your Western medicine hat. What that means is when you go to Chinese medicine school, you need to come into that class, like the class of Chinese medicine, with a fresh understanding, with an open mind, and not trying to place any Western medicine knowledge on that. What I mean by that is when you hear them say, oh, the spleen does this, and your mind just instantly goes to spleen that you know in Western medicine, because you're learning that alongside it, or you may have come from a background of medicine. And a lot of people these days, even if they haven't had any training in medicine, we know a lot of stuff than whatever we used to know, even without a degree in medicine, right? So people think, oh, the pancreas, oh, that makes insulin. And where's that pancreas in Chinese medicine? And oh, that spleen qi deficiency must be type 2 diabetes, or, you know, stuff like this. And that is completely like so not helpful for you to learn Chinese medicine. So what you have to do is you have to place all the other things aside in a way, come to the class and come with an open mind and just absorb that stuff and let that sink in and let yourself learn that as a layered approach. What I mean by that is you learn 5 elements, you learn yin and yang, you learn the zang fu organs, you learn this, you learn that. And then you may come back to understanding some stuff from the start, or rereading that, and it has a new meaning because you've learned the 5 elements, right? So that's one thing to remember. Just keep those things separate and avoid at all costs trying to make sense of it with using a different system, a Western medicine system. Try to avoid that. Now, can you ever do that? Yeah, you can. And that's sometimes I make videos and people say, oh, what about the thyroid in Chinese medicine, Marie? Explain that. Now, I would never be able to explain that what's hypothyroidism, how do we see that within the 5 elements? I've got a great video on that. I'd never be able to do that if I didn't fully, properly understand Chinese medicine. Now, do I know fully, properly understand Chinese medicine? No, I'm still learning it myself. It's a lifelong pursuit of learning it. So even someone like me, I have to have teachers that are better than me, that are more experienced than me, that are more scholarly than me, let's say that, right? Like scholarly means you're, digging into the classics of Chinese medicine. You're really able to understand it and bring forth that knowledge. So I could say a lot about stuff on this topic. So that's the first piece of advice. Keep those 2 things separate, right? As best as you can, especially first year, right? Try to understand Chinese medicine for Chinese medicine within itself. The second thing is, number 2, is be prepared to be confused. Be comfortable with being confused. You are going to be confused. You're not going to understand it all. I remember very vividly feeling always confused. But there was always an excitement and an intrigue and a wanting to know more at the same time. There was a wanting to kind of, I want to understand this. I want to get to know more. But there was also that confusion. And the thing that keeps you going through the confusion is knowing that it's going to make sense at some point or seeing some kind of results of it. So if you've had results of Chinese medicine yourself and that's why you want to study it, for me, I didn't have that. There was nothing wrong with me or anything like that. I'd actually never had acupuncture when I studied Chinese medicine. It was just, that's what I mean by it was a bit whimsical how I studied it. It was just, I was just intrigued and I was like, there's something to this. Hadn't seen something to it. Just thought it would be cool. And it certainly has been cool and I've never been disappointed. If that curiosity is there and that almost that trust, there's a lot of stuff that we can liken from Chinese medicine to, I don't even know if I want to say this, but faith, religious faiths in a way. And I'll maybe circle back to that because I'm not saying it's mystical or woo-woo in any way, but I can see a lot of parallels in kind of understanding and learning it as well that's in those sort of scholarly traditions of religious teachings, right? Now we'll come back to that. Okay, that'll be for free at the end. So the terminology is the question here, right? This pinyin. So another tip I'd give you, if they don't offer this at school already, go and do this. This helped me a lot, and this is what I had to do. They didn't have a Chinese language class that they offered at the time when I was doing Chinese medicine. I went off to TAFE, so I'm not sure what country you're in, but in Australia we have short courses that you can do at TAFE, and you can do these things online as well now, I think. I did introductory to Chinese language. So it was once a week on a Saturday for about 6 to 12 weeks, something like that. And that was really beneficial. And you learn to pronounce Chinese language. Now, I get around Chinese people. They're you're not pronouncing it right at all because I've been doing this for so long and saying it in my own way. And I probably have a bit of an Australian accent on some of that Chinese that's not great. So I apologise for that in advance. But the pronunciation of words like xie, X-I-E, how would you even pronounce that, right? Zhi, Z-H-I, zhi, z, z, the word z. Now, where does that come from? Here's a little bit of free information for you that you might not have known. The Chinese characters are pictographs, let's say, they're little pictures. And there's no English words with those things. But they created this little sort of sub part of the language, the pinyin, they call it, P-I-N-Y-I-N, to help communication with Russians. And so they used the phonetics of the Russian language. And that's why it's even more confusing because you're like, hang on a minute, if I was going to say share, like share, which is like thank you, okay, share. But you do have share by, like it's a different share, but like that sort of word, right? Share by is a herb that's like a spring onion type of a herb. So if I was to say share, I would almost spell it in English share, share, like especially if I was saying it with an Australian accent, they will probably say sear, like s. Maybe it will be sear, sear, something like that. Certainly not X, like X, but Russian language has different phonetics, and they have about 3 or 4 other sounds that don't actually exist in the English language that are just only in the Russian language. So that's how the pinyin started. Now, a lot of these things where you'll see, what are the words? The common words is qi, Q-I, qi, like C-H-I. Well, why are they spelling it Q? Because I don't know enough Russian, but I did actually do the intro to Russian language course because, funnily enough, that's at the same time I was doing Chinese medicine. My sister was helping out in an orphanage in Russia, and she wanted to go over there, but firstly learn a little bit of Russian language. And this was back in like 2004 or something. No, it would have been when I was studying Chinese medicine. So that would have been 1998, 1999, something like that. Anyway, so we did Russian. I did it with her, and she did the Chinese with me. So we did this little intro course. We used to go to the city every weekend and do our little TAFE courses together. And, that was an interesting thing to do. That's why I know a tiny bit of Russian. I can't really remember anything except for some rude words, and I won't say them here. Anyway, that's how I kind of learned about this, and it made sense when I did a bit of that Russian. I was like, oh, okay, I can see that phonetic thing there. So just so that you know, there's going to be some of these things that are just strange and difficult and different. There is going to be a bit of confusion at the first year, but trust me, it will come to the point. If you persist in it, it'll come to the point where you'll have this aha moments where it's like, oh, that all just makes sense, right? So the other thing that helps you along the journey of learning Chinese medicine, learning acupuncture, is most courses, I can't say for sure in the US, but I know how the courses in Australia are structured. They get you into the clinical practice pretty early. It's not like you're doing 3 years of theory and then you get in the clinic. Like you're almost getting into clinical practice by the end of that first year, the start of the second year. And you start to see, you're watching other practitioners do it, right? And you're starting to see things happen. And you think, wow, this makes me want to do this. It actually makes me want to learn this. Okay. Another thing to remember, I'm not that great at giving you advice for ADHD because I don't have ADHD. I mean, maybe I do, but I don't know that I do. So maybe that's ADHD. I don't know. I'm a Gen Xer, so I've grown up in the stage where, I'm pretty sure I don't have ADHD, but I do struggle to learn things sometimes. And that's probably why I'm good at explaining Chinese medicine and I do this channel, because I remember feeling like a dunce, like in high school we used to, have that, like say, oh, you've got the dunce hat on, like a little, I don't even know what a dunce is, but that would be the idiot, right? That's the person that I used to feel like, no one said that you are or anything like that, but I used to feel like I was always a bit behind everybody else. And there was people that I studied with, one person in particular who we're still great friends today and things like that. And he's very successful in his business and practice. He was much more scholarly than me. He was always reading Neijing and bringing other texts into school. And I was thinking, where'd you get these books from? Like, am I missing the point? Am I missing something here? Like, we weren't told we had to read those things. And, and he seemed to just remember the herbs so much more. I could never remember herbs. I was like struggling, and I used to like really struggle to learn this stuff. And that's probably why I had to really think about it. And different people learn in different ways, right? So that's the next point, is to know your learning style. Maybe spend a bit of time finding that out if you don't know that already. Like if you don't know that there's different ways of thinking about learning styles, but there's 3 predominant learning styles in one theory, which is called visual learner, auditory learner, kinesthetic learner. Kinesthetic means doing. Now, I know for myself I'm a doing learner. I learn better, I remember better by doing it. So, like, for instance, I've found learning herbs, and this is not going to be helpful for you in first year Chinese medicine school because you're not going to be able to do it. But I can memorize formulas more because I've prescribed them out, right? So I might have a time, like recently I've been prescribing a lot of, a certain formula, and I sort of write it out, write it out, write it out, write it out, write it out. And maybe it's because I'm writing it out, but it's not just that, because I did that method in school where you just learn, it's like writing lines. You just write it out, write it out, write it out, and you try to rote learn, memorize it. But you've written it out, and you can, maybe part of your brain remembers, I was in this context, I was here, I was there. The part of it is the writing part. So for me, like, I write on my iPad. I know I learn better when I've written something with my hand rather than typed it out. Now, I can type out like nobody's business. And the course I've just recently done, well, recently as in the last 10 years, the classical Chinese medicine course, it was kind of like going to Chinese medicine school all over again and learning concepts that are new concepts and stuff like that. So I've done lots of that sort of learning. And I just sat there in that class and I just typed it out almost word for word, because I was like, whatever this teacher is saying is amazing. I want to learn all this. And I remember thinking, I don't know what they're talking about. If I stop to pause to try to remember it or try to understand it in the class, I'm going to miss something and I won't be able to type it all out. So that's literally how I learned this new system that I'm doing. And then I'll go back and read my notes and think about it and mull it over. And I've got really good notes to kind of draw from, because this particular course, there isn't really a book or anything like that to go back and learn from. So hopefully this is a bit helpful and useful to you. And I do wish you all the best in your journey of learning Chinese medicine. One is, it's a great medicine. It's a great medicine system. I worry for our profession because I see that the way things are going with the teaching of it, there's lots of concerns I have about the quality of our profession going forward. And it's not just one school or anything that's doing that. It's just what is happening. Like, there's a big push within Chinese medicine colleges, because they're mostly university level colleges, to have so much Western medicine and what they call evidence-based medicine. Now, that's all good. Nothing wrong with that stuff. But then all your brain is and your time is filled up with that, and all the onus on the assignments is often on those things. And then there's not as much time and effort and emphasis placed, and marks in assignments placed on actually understanding the concepts, which that's actually what's going to lead you to the results and the diagnosis of Chinese medicine. So there's a bit of a push at the moment. I don't want to make this video a rant. I might make a separate rant video if people want to hear a rant video. There's a bit of a sort of a push to go like, okay, this person's got insomnia. What's some research papers on insomnia for acupuncture? What points did they use? And that will be evidence-based medicine. And it is, in a way, but, well, it is evidence-based medicine, not even in a way, but is that proper Chinese medicine? Probably not, right? Like, you've jumped the gun into the research papers. Now, if that was what you would have come up with within your Chinese medicine diagnosis, and you thought, oh, well, I'm going to choose Heart 7 for this patient because I've got this valid Chinese medicine diagnosis based on their tongue, their pulse, their symptoms, and all the rest of it that you've come up with. And then you went and found a research paper that said, oh, like, these patients had Heart 7 and, 47% of them had better sleep and blah, 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 and these parameters. That's nice and that's great. And that sort of validates from a different perspective the use of the Heart 7 in that patient. But that shouldn't be the only reason you're using that Heart 7. Oh, I found it in a research paper and that was good for insomnia. It's kind of skipping the whole diagnosis point. Anyway, that's a separate thing. Trying to make this video quick. I'm just looking at the time because my patients are going to come in a minute. So the tips and advice is to stick with it, stick it out. And my next tip would probably be to try to find some local practitioners that you can do some kind of observation, some kind of work experience, work there for free, do what you can, be around other practitioners, because you're probably not going to get that in school. You're going to go into a student clinic environment, which you'll see a supervisor do treatments on people sometimes, but most of the time your first experience is actually watching other students do treatments. you need to watch experienced practitioners do treatments. And some schools are doing this kind of thing where they place you into a work placement and you watch experienced practitioners do treatments. But the more you can do that, I think that will make you a better practitioner and also give you that curiosity and that, keep that spark going in the midst of some of this stuff that's a bit of a drudgery and a bit, of a turmoil. Oh, and I wanted to add in this video because it's a response to this person. You might be thinking about your age. Are you, I don't know, 43, you're not past it or by any means, but going into a study as an older student, I'll give you a couple of advantages that you have. Now, one disadvantage that you may be wondering about is, do you have it there cognitively? I've had some students that are mature age students worry about that, or they feel like, oh, I can't keep up the pace. Like when I did my master's degree, I had to pull a lot of all-nighters, like work until 3 o'clock in the morning to get assignments done because I was also running my business and doing other things. And it was just how I had to do it. Now, could I do that now? Probably not. I probably couldn't stay up till 3 o'clock in the morning writing an assignment. I'll probably fall asleep at the computer. So there is that kind of stamina, physicality. You've got kids, obviously. You said you're a mum. These are challenges that you have to face as a student. But what that means for you as a practitioner is you're going to jump into practice with a whole bunch of experience of life, of dealing with difficult stuff that a young person won't have. And that can make you a much better practitioner. It can help you understand patients better. Now, it doesn't help you now as much because you think, oh, Marie, I have to get through these arduous assignments. Like, how am I going to get through this part? Some of it you have to suck it up and get through. But believe me, there's practitioners, or let's say students that graduate and they don't become good practitioners because they struggle with the parts that you're going to find at the other end easy, which is talking to people, understanding people that have gone through difficult situations. Like when I graduated, I was 22 and people used to think I was the receptionist. Now I've got big balls for a girl. I don't actually have any balls, but you get the metaphorical idea. And like I can handle it, I could take it. But, people used to be thinking, when's the real practitioner coming in? They thought I was ushering them into the treatment room. And then I sat down as the practitioner and they said, oh, I had someone say that to me once. I was like, oh, am I seeing you? And they're like, oh, you're so young. I was like, well, when did you graduate? It's like, and people, it took that was a bit of a hindrance to me. Now, I give you a little tip that you might not realize that you're going to graduate. If you're 43 now and you're starting first year, you might graduate when you're 40. Let's say you graduate when you're 47 or something like that. People are going to think you've got 20 years of experience under your belt. They're not going to ask you, when did you study? They're just going to look at you, they're going to judge you by your face and your age and everything and assume you've been doing this the whole time. They're not going to, I've actually never had anyone, now that I'm this old, ask me, well, they have actually. So patients do ask you, how long have you been doing this? But it's not the commonest question, to be fair. Like, it's not like people, they don't say, oh, how long have you been doing this? Now, maybe that's because I just come across as knowing what I'm talking about. Sometimes I don't know what I'm talking about. I try my best to know what I'm talking about. What I'm getting at is you're going to have a whole bunch of life experience that's going to help you in your practice and help you in your student life actually deal with other people, other practitioners, your supervisors, your fellow students. Like, you're probably going to be better at some of that, navigating emotional stuff than younger people. It's just part of being a person that's been in the world for longer. Also being a mum, right? Like, you've got all this experience of raising a child, knowing what that's like, seeing that kind of stuff. When kids get sick, what happens to them. Like, you've seen all that in your life, and that's amazing life experience. That's going to help you learn Chinese medicine and think about it. So yeah, that's kind of, I know sometimes older, mature age students think about that. They worry like, oh, how am I going to almost, not that you're competing like with these younger people that, only some are going to get the degree and others aren't, but it is challenging in that way, right? And you're just going to have to figure out the other stuff. But there's some stuff where you think you might not realize you have the advantage there, because some students that are younger, they have a lot of time on their hands to do these assignments and do stuff, but they procrastinate a lot. They don't know how to knuckle down and get on and do it. And even if you've got ADHD, right, you probably you've been around on this planet longer than people who are younger with ADHD. So you probably know how to manage those things yourself, and you probably know more than you think you know about yourself and about what's going to work for you. And you've just got to put those systems in place. Like, you might know that I can only work productively for 20 minutes and then I've got to stop. And if you know that, there's no point in enduring for 30 minutes. Go have a little break, 10 minutes, come back, do it. Whatever that thing that you know works for you, just you've got to factor that stuff in. Go and learn. If you're worried about the Chinese language stuff, go and just invest the time and do a short course, a TAFE course, or even an online course if you can find basic first foundations of Chinese language. They're going to teach you a tone chart, bo, mo, po, do, something like that, whether you say these tones. They'll teach you that. They'll teach you how to understand the basic concepts of the wording, so you can kind of get your mind around it a little bit, and that might take the edge off some of the crazy language that's there. Well, it's not crazy language, it's just Chinese language. And keep going. So I did say, if you stuck around to the end, I would mention the parallel between religious teaching, and the parallel is basically this concept called hermeneutics, which is mostly talked about in religious understanding. So if you go and do Bible school, you study I was going to say Bibleology, if you want to become a biblical scholar, they teach you about this concept. And it's also a concept that kind of rings true for many classical Chinese medicine texts. And these are things like the Huangdi Neijing, the Ling Shu, and there's acupuncture texts, the Shang Lun and the Jingui from Jiang. Those texts are easier to understand because they tend to talk about things in a more clinical language. But a text like the Neijing, which is like a foundational seminal text of all different styles of Chinese medicine, has a lot of language that's either somehow metaphorical or it's cultural. It's got an understanding that could be inferred based on what you know about that culture and what you know about what were they really trying to say, or what could this interpretation be, which is why you have so many commentaries on these texts. So that's kind of, when you read them, you have the lines of the text, and it's very similar to the Bible. Like, you read a translation of the Bible, and one's translator will say, well, that's what this word is in English, and another will say, no, that's what this word is in English. And if you've ever gone to a church where they give a sermon, like, sometimes that's what a sermon will be about. It'll be a person that's gone and done a lot of study on one particular line of this biblical text and say, that's what this is meaning, and that's what this might mean for our lives today, and sort of give some examples and things like that. Well, Chinese medicine's got parallels to that stuff as well, because and that's why it's so hard for us to just pick up that text as a student and go and say, well, just go and read the Neijing and all your dreams will come true, Marie. No, it's hard to read those texts without that understanding. And a lot of schools, if not any, I don't even know if any, teach you how to have that understanding. It would be great if they did, but they don't. So how do you get that? If that's something you're looking for, now it's not really answering the question you're asking me now, but that's where you'll either come across a really great teacher as part of your school. Like, some of these people find themselves in those kind of academic schools, and they, will be able to kind of share their knowledge with you in that way and help you and guide you. Unfortunately, many schools don't necessarily, have sort of even a department of that sort of scholarly understanding of Chinese medicine, like as in the traditional text, the classical text. Some do, but there's also a massive amount of information now available through other courses, like extracurricular activities, learning. And there may be people that you can learn from through podcasts and YouTube and discover about them, and then say, oh, I want to learn from that person. I'm going to then enroll in that course to learn that style of Chinese medicine, or to help me with an understanding of that particular text, right? So there are people like that in the world now that are more accessible to us because of the internet, and that's a fantastic, amazing thing, right? So we can kind of draw and learn from those things. So your undergraduate course is just kind of the basics, the start, right? And then it kind of just goes from there. And if that's enough to whet your appetite, then you might be like, yeah, I really want to understand this more. And that's when you might go and do that. But that's what I was saying. If you stuck around to the end, I'll kind of give you that little pearl of wisdom that there is a bit of a parallel in terms of the understanding of these texts. And don't be worried, why I'm mentioning it in this video is if you're a student, you're coming to this and you're thinking, oh, well, Maria, I've tried to read the Neijing and I don't understand it. It makes no sense to me. You are better off to read a small passage and really think about that and read lots of commentaries on that small passage. Ask your teachers about that passage and spend time thinking about it. That's how actually it's the same parallel as how people in faith based things. Now, I don't have that much experience with other religions, but definitely in the Jewish religions, or religion, Judaism, and in Christianity, that's a way that people are encouraged to learn those texts. It's like you read something, you think about it, you meditate on it, you meditate on it means you ruminate on it, you think about it, you might ask someone else that knows a bit more about it than you to help you understand that. What do you think that means? Go and ask teachers about that. What do you think that means? Do some further research on that within the context of people that will actually understand that. I've probably gone way beyond what we needed for this video, but I did say I'd mention it, so I have to kind of mention it. So that's it. And then, yeah. So that's the free bit at the end if you stuck around now. I've got other tips. Might make a part 2. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you. And thanks for subscribing and thanks for enjoying the channel and letting me know that the channel has resonated with you. And I'm always glad to see that it helps people. And I also am running a short course on Chinese medicine. You can jump into that at some point in time. There's an online version of it coming whenever whoever's watching this video. I'll put the link below to that and you can see what's available at the time of this video. When you're watching it, it's not a course to make you a practitioner, but I have had people do that along, like some of my short courses sort of alongside of them being a student because they find just another person explaining it can kind of be helpful to understand these concepts. All right, good.